The town of Ashford, Pennsylvania, was the kind of place where people rarely locked their front doors. Neighbors knew one another by name, children played outside until sunset, and violent crime felt like something that happened somewhere else. That peaceful reputation was shattered on October 14, 1998. 26-year-old Emily Carter left work just after 6 o'clock, telling a coworker she would be home in time for dinner with her parents. She had recently earned a promotion at a local insurance company and was looking forward to the future. Reliable, kind, and devoted to her family, Emily never disappeared without telling someone where she was going. But that evening, she never made it home. When Emily failed to arrive by 7 o'clock, her parents assumed traffic had delayed her. By 8, worry had replaced patience. Her mother repeatedly called her phone, but every call went straight to voicemail. Her father drove her usual route, checking the grocery store, the coffee shop she often visited, and the riverside walking trail where she occasionally stopped after work. There was no sign of Emily or her car. The following morning, police officially classified her as a missing person. Hundreds of volunteers searched nearby woods, riverbanks, abandoned buildings, and open fields. Flyers carrying Emily's smiling photograph appeared throughout the town, while local television stations urged viewers to come forward with information. Every reported sighting gave investigators hope. Every lead ended in disappointment. 17 days later, a hunter walking through Blackwood State Forest noticed something unusual beneath fallen branches. Emily's body had been carefully hidden. The investigation immediately became a homicide case. Although weather and wildlife had destroyed much of the evidence, investigators recovered several crucial pieces: tiny fibers attached to Emily's clothing, a single strand of hair, and biological material beneath one of her fingernails. Detectives believed these clues would eventually identify her killer, but forensic science in 1998 wasn't advanced enough to unlock their secrets. Instead, investigators focused on someone they believed had both motive and opportunity. Emily's former boyfriend, Daniel Brooks. The couple had recently ended a difficult relationship. Witnesses described emotional arguments, repeated phone calls, and Daniel's inability to accept the breakup. Friends recalled seeing him near Emily's apartment after they separated, and public opinion quickly turned against him. To many people, the case already seemed solved. Detectives spent months interviewing witnesses and building what they believed was a strong case. Daniel admitted he had repeatedly called Emily because he wanted closure, but he consistently denied harming her. Despite growing suspicion, prosecutors faced one major problem. The physical evidence refused to support their theory. Fingerprints revealed nothing useful. Footprints found near the crime scene were incomplete. The strand of hair couldn't be fully analyzed using the technology available at the time, and the biological material beneath Emily's fingernail produced only limited results. Without conclusive evidence, prosecutors could not file murder charges. As months turned into years, the investigation slowly went cold. Emily's parents never stopped searching for answers. Every anniversary they attended memorial services, hoping someone would finally come forward. Meanwhile, Daniel Brooks spent more than 2 decades living under a cloud of suspicion. Although never charged, many people believed he had escaped justice. Then everything changed. More than 20 years later, advances in forensic DNA technology gave investigators a second chance. A newly formed cold case unit reopened Emily's file and carefully transported every preserved piece of evidence to a modern forensic laboratory. Scientists re-examined the fibers, retested the hair, and used advanced DNA extraction techniques on the biological material beneath Emily's fingernail. The results stunned everyone. The DNA completely excluded Daniel Brooks. There was no partial match. No uncertainty. The man believed responsible for over 20 years had absolutely nothing to do with the DNA recovered during Emily's final struggle. The discovery forced detectives to start over. Every interview, every witness statement, every photograph, and every handwritten note from the original investigation was reviewed from the beginning. As they examined thousands of pages, investigators noticed one name that had received almost no attention: Michael Turner. Michael was a delivery driver who had delivered office supplies to Emily's workplace on the afternoon she disappeared. At the time, detectives interviewed him briefly before dismissing him as a cooperative witness with no criminal history. But modern investigators noticed small inconsistencies. His original timeline didn't match archived fuel purchases. Newly obtained cell phone records suggested he had traveled in a different direction than he originally claimed. Individually, the differences seemed insignificant. Together, they raised serious questions. The investigation took another dramatic turn when forensic genealogists uploaded the unknown DNA profile into a secure investigative genealogy database. There wasn't an exact match. Instead, the DNA pointed towards several distant relatives, connected through the same extended family tree. After months of tracing birth records, marriage certificates, census documents, and family histories, investigators narrowed hundreds of possible relatives down to one man: Michael Turner. But detectives still needed direct proof. Without alerting him, investigators quietly placed Michael under surveillance. For weeks, they watched his daily routine. Then one afternoon, Michael bought a cup of coffee from a convenience store. After finishing his drink, he casually threw the empty cup into a public trash bin. Once he drove away, detectives recovered the discarded cup. Hidden along its rim was exactly what they needed: his DNA. The laboratory quickly compared the saliva collected from the coffee cup with the DNA preserved beneath Emily's fingernail. It was a perfect match. After more than 20 years, investigators finally knew who had been with Emily during her final moments. As detectives dug deeper into Michael's past, even more troubling details emerged. Shortly after Emily's murder, he had unexpectedly resigned from his delivery job, moved to another county, changed employers several times, and rarely discussed his past. Investigators also discovered something that had been overlooked from the very beginning. A witness had reported seeing a delivery truck parked near the entrance to Blackwood State Forest on the night Emily disappeared. At the time, detectives ignored the statement because they believed they had already identified the killer. Old company records later confirmed Michael had been driving that exact truck on the day Emily vanished. Before sunrise one Tuesday morning, police quietly surrounded Michael's home. When detectives mentioned Emily Carter's name, they noticed his calm expression disappear for just a brief moment before he regained control. Minutes later, he was arrested for murder. During questioning, Michael repeated the same story he had given more than 2 decades earlier. Then detectives placed the DNA report in front of him. The room fell silent. After several long moments, Michael admitted meeting Emily, but insisted her death had been an accident after she rejected his unwanted advances. Investigators didn't believe him. The medical evidence showed Emily had suffered injuries far more severe than his story could explain. At trial, forensic experts carefully explained how modern DNA testing and investigative genealogy had solved a case once considered impossible. The defense challenged memories, timelines, and procedures. But they couldn't challenge the DNA. After only a few hours of deliberation, the jury found Michael Turner guilty of Emily Carter's murder. For Emily's parents, justice arrived 22 years too late, but it finally brought the answers they had spent a lifetime seeking. For Daniel Brooks, the verdict ended decades of suspicion that had damaged his reputation, relationships, and career. He told reporters he never blamed detectives for trying to solve the case, but hoped people would remember one important lesson. Suspicion is never the same as proof. Emily's case also transformed police training. Investigators openly acknowledged that they had become too focused on one suspect and overlooked evidence pointing elsewhere. a classic example of confirmation bias. Today, her story is used to remind detectives that evidence must always lead an investigation, not assumptions. Most importantly, Emily's case became a powerful example of how science continues to reshape criminal justice. The tiny DNA sample preserved beneath her fingernail remained unchanged for more than 2 decades, waiting for technology capable of revealing the truth. One microscopic piece of evidence accomplished what thousands of interviews, years of rumors, and countless theories never could. It identified the real killer. It cleared an innocent man. And it finally gave one grieving family the answers they had waited more than 20 years to hear. So the next time someone says a cold case is hopeless, remember Emily Carter's story. Time may bury the truth, but it doesn't always erase it. Sometimes, all justice needs is for science to catch up.